Hello, I'm Jimmy Bryant with Alpha Mortgage. Alpha Mortgage is a mortgage lender that's licensed in Louisiana and Mississippi. Alpha Mortgage offers rural development, FHA, VA, conventional, and reverse mortgages for all of your mortgage needs, whether it be for refinancing or purchasing.
Hi, I'm Charles Marsala, your host of Awesome Wildlife Effort, a show put together to draw attention towards saving vanishing species and reducing dead zones in our waterways. We have an exciting show tonight of people making an awesome wildlife effort. Before we review the show, I want to invite you to EarthFest. EarthFest is being sponsored by several organizations and will be held April 21st in Merida, Louisiana at the Forum Building on 3131 Veterans from 3 to 8 p.m. We're going to cover water issues, endangered species, and the educational program designed by the Crew of Awe. In the first half of our show, we'll have a clip of an interview with Jefferson Parish President Mike Yenni, recorded during his time as Mayor of Kenner. Following that, we'll talk to Hernan Caro, an outdoor sculpture artist who is working with Mike to develop a 16-foot-tall elephant sculpture to bring attention to the less than 30 remaining great tusker elephants in the world. Our final interview will be with Chimp Haven near Shreveport, a sanctuary with over 200 chimps. Following these interviews, we'll premiere a documentary entitled Big Cat Odyssey, created by our friends Derek and Beverly Joubert. The Jouberts are award-winning filmmakers whose mission is the conservation and understanding of large predators and key African wildlife species. They provided this video and two others to WLAE in return for our effort to help them raise funds to move 100 endangered white rhinos to Botswana's Okavango Delta, outside the poaching zone in Africa. With the help from you, our valued viewer, we have already contributed greatly to the Jouberts' efforts. 25 rhinos have been moved, with one calf already being born. When we return, we'll sit down with current Parish President Mike Yenni. Please stay tuned.
WLAE and Awesome Wildlife Efforts have teamed up to offer some exciting opportunities for you to support vanishing species conservation. Make your awesome wildlife effort just by going to awe.news and clicking on Become a Sponsor. Choose from a wide array of rare and exciting artwork and experiences as our thank you gift when you become a supporter of this global effort. AWE is dedicated to saving vanishing species by offering unique opportunities worldwide.
Species conservation is a topic that's going on in the U.S. Congress. It's a topic that artists deal with. It's a topic that sanctuaries are being developed because we are looking at the 6th mass extinction in the history of the world. People are addressing it from many different ways. So our guest today is Kenner Mayor Mike Yenni. And Mike has an interesting thing because Kenner is on the Mississippi River on one end. It is on Lake Pontchartrain on another. It has some swamps, I believe, to one side, and a lot of wildlife. So although you're not dealing with elephants and rhinos, you have your own wildlife to deal with, and quite a lot of it.
We do. You know, Kenner is a great community, surrounded, as you said, on 3 sides by water, and with especially the marshlands, swamp area that we're surrounded to immediately by the west, that can bring a multitude of species throughout the city of Kenner. And when the bachelor land outside the river fills up, certainly attracts anything over that levee into the city of Kenner because that water takes away those animals' dwellings.
And Mike, what most people don't know is Kenner is the 5th largest city in Louisiana.
6th, actually.
6th, excuse me. So the 6th, and you have a lot of development going on. The airport, New Orleans Airport's in Kenner. There's a lot of issues, so we have population growth happening, and you've got business development because of the airport, and you've got a very aggressive plan, the Kenner Vision 2030 that you're working on.
We do, and the way that started was when we slipped it some time ago from 5th to 6th, we lost a little population after Hurricane Katrina. Now, I don't believe everybody quite took the U.S. Census that they should have because the traffic in Kenner is as bad as it's ever been. And I do believe we have a lot of migrant workers still living in Kenner that may not have participated in it. So I think our population is very close to 70,000 where we once were, and definitely in the high 60s. And it's a great community. It's very diverse. We have a large population of Hispanics throughout the city of Kenner. In fact, the largest population of Hondurans outside of Honduras. So that tells you something right there. But you talked about the airport. Well, that North Terminal redevelopment is going to certainly change the whole landscape of Kenner and attract more businesses, more hotels. We've already got 3 hotels wanting to go where one big hotel was that just got demolished. Where a lot of we have tons of rental car dealerships, as you can imagine, around an airport. And again, we welcome this development. We welcome this change. I know a lot of people were scared at first, but once we talked to them and said this is very important for the community, it's very important for the region. This will not only help Kenner, this will be an explosion for the entire region.
Oh, it's big in digital media with the tax credits going on. There's a lot of growth going on. But do you find that you also have to figure out how you're going to deal with the wildlife?
Well, absolutely. There's a lot of areas of Kenner that have been designated bird sanctuaries, especially around Chateau Estates. The beauty of when Chateau was developed back in the 70s, Chateau was all swamp and marshland. It was the mud is geographically called Kenner muck. And it was like coffee grinds. If you looked at it, dark black and kind of thick, and you stepped into it and you'd sink. Well, of course, when the developers came through, they had to fill in, but a lot of the trees were lost through the process because they had to build up, over the roots of the trees. But we've been very proactive in planting trees, which are bird sanctuaries, and a lot of animals take refuge in trees, especially during floods and rain events and storms. So we have tons of trees throughout the city of Kenner.
Waterfowl is like ducks. I mean, there's just a lot of activity. You drive down the street.
Believe me, we get requests for duck crossing signs all the time. And what's funny about driving through Chateau and around Kenner City Park, where we have a ton of wildlife in Kenner City Park also, and the little water features they have there, people ask us, can we have duck crossing signs? And people know to stop and let the ducks cross. I mean, it's pretty good. I mean, I'm not going to say some unfortunately may not get hit, but we have a great humane department who is in times taken wounded ducks or wounded animals to local vets, and the local vets were really good and step up and do everything they can to treat them, especially birds when birds get hit or something happens to a bird. But we have a lot of actually hunters that are conservationists also, that want to save certain species of ducks and have brought certain species of ducks to Kenner City Park and house them there, which is great. And they watch out for them. I mean, I'll get calls from these guys and say, man, look, I know I put some mallards over there. I know, and I want to make sure they're treated right. We had some Eagle Scouts build an actual little duck refuge for the ducks to be put in Kenner City Park. And also they're very active in doing these bird type feeders where the birds can have refuge way up in the trees at Kenner City Park to keep them away from the wildlife that may be after them.
So there's a lot to be said as far as how humans need to adapt to having animals in their backyard.
Right.
Whether it be wildlife or overseas it might be elephants.
The scary thing for Kenner residents is the coyotes, because like I said, when the Batcher land fills, we do get coyotes that will cross over, but the residents are on the lookout for them. Our humane calls some certain trappers, and we're able to humanely trap them and release them back into the area.
So I see you use a lot of art in Kenner.
We do.
And does the art have a educational purpose? Is it?
Some of it's educational, some of it's fun, some of it people don't understand, some of it people love, some of it people hate. But we have had some great artists. James Michelopoulos, who paints the crooked houses, he did a great sculpture for us at Chateau and Vintage. We have a great Ledbetter piece that's out at, it's a wetlands piece with some egrets on it out at our Lake Town entrance. So, Henry Shane, who's one of our local philanthropists, has donated a lot of artwork down the Loyola corridor with these beautiful butterflies that were done on our Power Boulevard area, and the entire Power Boulevard stretch will all be a sculpture garden at some point soon. And it's brought culture to the community. It's got people talking. If you love it.
Has this been a long-time vision to Kenner? Because it's beautiful to see. You don't see many cities doing that.
We watched some of it happen in Jefferson Parish, but I'd like to say we took it to a new level based on the 2030 plan we're about to do. City of New Orleans followed Jefferson Parish with it, with some of theirs that they've done down Poitras and throughout the area. Unless you are fortunate enough to go to the sculpture garden behind the New Orleans Museum of Art, you don't get to see this. There are a lot of people that don't make it there. So we want to be able to allow them to see it throughout the city of Kenner's landscapes. We just had a great piece that was around for the World's Fair that was restored, and we have actually on loan to the city of New Orleans.
When you're looking for your artists, and you've got benefactors who are doing this, because I know you run a very tight budget.
We do not pay for artwork. I'd love to, but I got to pave streets and fix.
So you've been able to arrange for donors to help this.
Yes.
Do you have like with the wildlife you're talking about, or do you have certain concepts?
Well, let me tell you what happens, and the Kenner police would kind of find this story funny. The artists will go and sit in certain areas of the city where they'd like to put their artwork. We actually had a Kenner policeman approach one of them who was sitting there because we don't allow people to lay out on our neutral grounds or anything like that. So thought this guy might be homeless, but it was actually an artist who was looking for a place to put his artwork and found a home for a piece of his artwork, which is great. So we welcome that throughout the city of Kenner.
Does the Parks and Recs, are they people who work with the people, or how does
It's all done through our Public Works Department.
Public Works.
And our landscape architect, Linfield Hunter and Junius, does a lot of our landscape architect. Greg Cantrell, who was very instrumental in the developments down Veterans in Jefferson Parish, is doing our work in the city of Kenner, and he understands where and how this artwork needs to be placed. But we try to leave it up to the artist because, I mean, obviously they're taking their time to go sculpt these wonderful pieces of art. Where do they see that it fits best? Now, we have to look at it for traffic, whether it's going to impede traffic or, block a view from somebody making a turn. And we have to look at other things like power lines and underground wiring and different things like that, because you got to put slabs or bases for this artwork. But if they want it in a certain vicinity, we try to accommodate that.
Okay, and then I know that the crew of Awe as such, they're looking to, when they heard about what you did, and they have artists come into them for wildlife art and such. So do you see this is an opportunity for cities to have something, so when someone's driving down the street, or there's this ability to interact and start to realize what's going on with species conservation.
Our Kenner City Park, Henry Shane donated, basically, it was just a sculpture of a giraffe. Beautiful giraffe.
I've seen that, it's beautiful.
You've seen it, and we placed it out there. Well, you know how many kids now refer to Kenner City Park as the Giraffe Park? And we at first we thought about maybe putting it in some trees where you'd kind of see the giraffe's head pop out the trees. But I think the fact that it's by the play equipment in Kenner City Park, kids go take pictures with it. They want to do little birthdays around it. They want to be part of the artwork.
So, and then Mike, as far as mayors becoming more involved with this, we see the mayors going to the Vatican for climate change and other issues. Do you sense that there is going to be a movement through the Sierra Club or somebody, as endangered species become more prevalent, for mayors to have that on their radar?
I think it's very important that we get proactive in that. It's very upsetting when I see these commercials where they talk about in 10 years certain animals that are all throughout Africa will no longer be here because of the way they're being hunted or just their species is just getting into that ending point. And I think it's very important that we're cognizant of that we make sure we do everything we can to protect the wildlife within our communities.
Thank you, Mayor Yenni, for being here.
My pleasure.
And it's great to see everything that Kenner's doing. You guys really have it going well with species conservation, and just your master plan in general is things many cities would like to have.
I agree with you. Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back with Awesome Wildlife Efforts.
WLAE and Awesome Wildlife Efforts have teamed up to offer some exciting opportunities for you to support vanishing species conservation. Make your awesome wildlife effort just by going to awe.news and clicking on Become a Sponsor. Choose from a wide array of rare and exciting artwork and experiences as our thank you gift when you become a supporter of this global effort. AWE is dedicated to saving vanishing species by offering unique opportunities worldwide.
Welcome back to Awesome Wildlife Effort. In this segment of our show, we like to interview artists who are inspired by wildlife and look to communicate the importance of wildlife through their art. My guest for this segment is Hernan Caro. Hernan, welcome to our show.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you for having me.
Hernan, I'm finding out that most artists find something in their youth that inspired them for their path. Tell us about your start and your core.
Well, I was born in Colombia, Cartagena, Colombia. This is a small town of the coast in the Caribbean Sea. And I was always in touch with the ocean, so that's pretty much one of the fascination of art, creating things based on that.
And then you migrated to New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah. Actually, I have more time over here in New Orleans than in Colombia. 30 years in New Orleans.
And some of your art we can see in New Orleans.
Yes.
Where are some of those places?
Public-wise, you can see some of my work at the Botanical Garden at City Park. I have 4 pieces over there.
And typically your work is outdoors?
Yes.
And how tall, how big?
Right now I'm working on 10, 12 feet tall looking forward to do something bigger, but for that level, you really need some public space, some really like a park or something that you can really display that.
And that's how you actually got in touch with the crew of Awe, that they're working to try to
Exactly.
help you with a large sculpture for
Yes.
to identify what's going on with wildlife right now with the possible extinction of several species.
Exactly, yes, that's a reason.
And that's great, so that you're going there. And I also understand you're doing some work back home in Colombia.
Exactly, yeah, we're doing one facing the ocean in the old town. It's an old walled town, date like from 1500s. And we're doing a sculpture over there, resemble a little bit of a sea sails cutting, through the wind. Yeah.
And for you, the art, the ocean was like your first love, it seems.
Yes, absolutely. It gave me a lot of peace, and it gave me a lot to get inspired for. Yeah.
And you can tell in your heart, just talking to you, I can see that this is a core principle of yours.
Yes.
You also, it seems like, feel art can do a lot of other things with social injustice or some other crime, other parts?
Absolutely, yes. I believe, you can see like around town that it was some parks that when you do a little bit of art display on that one, it helps for kids to enjoy more. It relax people more.
And we can see that here in Jefferson Parish. There's a tremendous amount of art going on in the medians.
Exactly, and I think even for something as simple as traffic, like if you see a nice sculpture in the media and you waiting stuck on traffic and you see that, it kind of give you a little bit of a relaxation and all that stuff. So it's doing something for the community.
You're there,
yeah.
and you're actually able to take your mind off of the
Exactly,
traffic
yes.
jam by analyzing the art for a second.
Exactly.
Because normally
you
don't
may
have a
not
chance.
like it, but it really gets you off the wheel thinking about the traffic. Yeah. So.
And then when you're doing it for the crime and injustice, you just find that the kids, do they participate a lot, or they? You can see that later it's a spot where they come together.
Yeah, I think just the fact that people either say something about it, that just give you like 5 minutes to analyze it, to criticize it, that makes a difference.
And with the children, in working with the environment in nature, that's a key focus as well of yours.
I truly believe that we cannot, how can we put this? We cannot trickle a kid, like if you're trying to do something with nature and all that stuff, they open their mind, they want to work with it, they want to be part of that. And I think that's something that is hard to find with adults, unless it's something that is in their interest, that's so.
Now, I'm finding today, obviously you're an international man, you've got 2 countries here, but we are doing a lot for other countries and the awareness of their animals and species. So the digital world, is that opening that up for us?
I believe in that. I truly believe that now with all the technology, you can pretty much link 2 towns, like one in Africa, maybe one here in New Orleans, and you have a school and they can exchange cultural ideas of how we live here, how they live over there, and maybe that motivate people to travel, to people from over here to be part of what their problems are over there and make a difference, and the same with them. Come over here and make a difference for the problems we have over here. Sometimes we need that. We need some sort of fresh memory. We need somebody to see our problems in a different way, and maybe that's a way that we can explore.
So today you brought in 2 pieces.
Yeah.
And can you tell me a little about those 2 pieces? Perhaps
Well,
we'll start with the piece you're doing for the Crew of Awe
Okay.
and their activity. Would you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, that one is inspired by the horns. That's everything, like with the rhinos, the horns, or the elephant, the ivory and the poaching and all that stuff. So basically, it's an inspiration to say that you don't really need to kill this animal to see something in that.
Beautiful.
In that look,
Beautiful.
yeah.
And the other piece?
And the other piece is inspired by the sharks. It's like 2 jaws of a shark, and I believe it's kind of like sharks are getting a bad rap, in a sense,
Well, and shark fin soup is devastating, the shark right now.
Exactly,
So
yes.
you're right, they have that bad rap, but we saw the surfer recently,
Yeah.
but yet sharks are being hunted very aggressively.
Exactly.
So that is to draw awareness.
Exactly, to throw that, more than the fact that all the accidents and all the casualties that happen through the year, but
Now, if someone
that's
went,
just a small amount of what really happening to those animals.
it is very small, and then the amount of shark fin soup, and it says
Yeah.
the culture to bring awareness to that is, there's a lot that needs to happen.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to find out more about you, And I also see you do furniture as well.
Yeah. I do a little bit. Sometimes I get these ideas of some functional art, but I just don't want to just make plain, simple table. I want to create something with a little bit of body and form and
I saw some
meaning.
great designs there. Yeah. Well, thank you. If anyone wanted to know more about how to reach you, what's your website?
Well, the best way would be through my website, hernancaro.com, HERNANCARO.com.
Yeah. .com. Okay, and you are based both New Orleans and
Cartagena.
Cartagena.
Right now we're doing a lot of work over there.
Well, I'm grateful for what you're doing to bring awareness to species conservation and the beauty of these animals, and thank you for being on our show tonight. Again, Awesome Wildlife Effort. We're going to be right back with another sanctuary piece coming up. Stay tuned. Hernan, thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Okay, Charles.
WLAE and Awesome Wildlife Efforts have teamed up to offer some exciting opportunities for you to support vanishing species conservation. Make your awesome wildlife effort just by going to awe.news and clicking on Become a Sponsor. Choose from a wide array of rare and exciting artwork and experiences as our thank you gift when you become a supporter of this global effort. AWE is dedicated to saving vanishing species by offering unique opportunities worldwide.
Welcome back. I'm now joined by Cathy Willis Spraetz of Chimp Haven in Keithville, Louisiana. Welcome to our show, Cathy.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, Charles.
It's great. Chimp Haven is a place I just went out and visited. It's got discovery days, 200 acres, about 200 chimpanzees. There's chimp chat and chew events. There's a lot going on in Northwest Louisiana, excuse me. So, Cathy, tell me, how did Chimp Haven get started?
Well, it was really an effort of love on a number of very diverse people. People from the research labs around the country, as well as primatologists and people from the pharmaceutical industry, all came together and said, we really need a place for chimpanzees who are no longer needed in biomedical research to retire to. And so that's how Chimp Haven was born. It took about 10 years for us to actually identify the place where the sanctuary would be, as well as to bring in the first 2 of our chimpanzees.
Wow, so now going out there, I see you got some expansion going on. How big is it right now, and what's the plans?
Right. Well, we have 200 acres right now, and that is thanks to the Caddo Parish Commission, who actually gifted us with that property and allowed us to build to accommodate the 200 chimpanzees that we have today. Our expansion plans moving forward very quickly are to bring in, within the next year or so, around 100 chimpanzees. Now, early fall, we'll be able to bring in as many as 25. We still have room to expand to that degree. And but once we build these other facilities, then we'll be able to house at least 100 more chimpanzees.
And chimpanzees live a very long life.
They do.
So you're going to be around for a long time.
Yes, we are. You know, we're a no breeding facility. Chimpanzees are only bred and very carefully in zoos, but no chimpanzees in sanctuaries are breeding. However, we do have some oops babies.
I heard about that one.
We have 3 babies that were born after vasectomies and birth control and so forth, and so nature sort of has a way, but we don't anticipate any additional births. We also brought in 7 chimpanzees that were babies from the New Iberia Research Center at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. And they too were sort of oops babies. But that's what makes Chimp Haven really beautiful and exciting, to see baby chimpanzees in with adults who have not spent all that much time or any time with babies. And it's a great form of enrichment for them.
I could see the interaction going on.
Yeah.
And what type of chimps do you have?
Well, we have the majority of the chimpanzees that live at Chimp Haven are owned by the federal government. They were used for biomedical research purposes, so they were exposed to a number of infectious agents. And once they were no longer used in research, then they began to come to Chimp Haven. Chimp Haven actually submitted a proposal to run the National Chimpanzee Sanctuary at Keithville, Louisiana. And we won that contract, right? And that was back in 2002.
Okay.
And so that's when chimpanzees began to come to Chimp Haven. Actually, we got our first 2, as I mentioned, in 2005, and they've been coming ever since. But these are chimpanzees who have been retired from research. And in fact, in 2013, June of 2013, the National Institutes of Health announced that they were going to retire virtually all of the chimpanzees that they owned.
That's great to hear.
Yes, and so, you know, the technology has advanced to the point where chimpanzees are really not necessary for research. There are many other ways, better ways to actually do that
There's
research.
something going on at Tulane regarding that. So I understand what
Right.
you're talking about as a
Yes.
way to do it with computers now and not necessarily use chimpanzees. But we
Right.
still need to take care of those chimps that were brought here to help us humans.
That's exactly right. And you know, we always have to remind ourselves, people say a lot of times, well, they've given so much to us. Yes, they have, but it's important for us to remember that it's been unwillingly.
Absolutely.
You know, they have been captive chimps for all these years. And, you know, the beauty, I think, of Sanctuary is that we offer them much greater self-determination. They can decide whether they are inside or outside. You know, they can choose how they want to spend their day.
So are there any USDA requirements for Chimp Haven?
Well, because we're considered an exhibitor, we actually have the public come a couple of times a year. We are licensed by the USDA, and so they regularly, every year, visit us and make sure that our standards are up to par. But we're very unique in that we are also accredited by 2 other accrediting agencies, ALAC and GFAS. And just knowing that we have that stamp of approval, I think, is really, really important.
That is perfect. It does. Now, famous chimps?
You know, it depends on what you call famous. We have Sarah Ann, who has her own Wikipedia page. So if
Did
you
she
just-
write it?
If you, if she could have, she would have. She's very, very bright chimp, and actually today is her birthday. She's 56 years old.
Okay.
And she's not, by far, not the oldest chimp that we have at Chimp Haven, but she was used in cognitive studies, and so that's why she has that Wikipedia page.
She could have written it.
Yes. And then we have Henry, and Henry has been covered by national news on a number of occasions. He was a former pet. He lived in his owner's garage for 15 years, primarily in the dark, in a 5x5x7 cage.
Jeez.
Just not a good situation for chimpanzee. He was rescued by the local SPCA and lived at the Houston Zoo for a couple of months while he recovered. Then he came to Chimp Haven. And Henry and I just have a special relationship and special bond, and it's amazing to see a pet chimpanzee actually act like a chimpanzee would in the wild, climbing trees and enjoying the forested habitat.
Now, is it now illegal for someone to try to bring a chimp in and own privately?
In the United States, it is,
It
yes.
is. You know, and it's not being in South America, but it is, Chimp Haven has a great forest around it. So what educational programs do you have? Because people that want to go, and what we're promoting on our show, Awesome Wildlife Effort, is the concept of going and getting involved and seeing sanctuaries and what happens there.
Absolutely.
So how do you engage the public?
Well, as I mentioned before, we're open 6 times a year, and those are our chimpanzee discovery days. So for a very small fee, people can come into the park, into the sanctuary rather, and see the chimpanzees in their natural habitats in the sanctuary. I mean, like you said, it's not Africa, but it certainly is large forested area. Our largest habitat is 5.5 acres, and we're planning to build at least 4 more of those habitats.
You can see the construction going
Right.
on right now.
So we have behind the scenes tours where we have hayride tours and take people around and let them get to see more of the chimpanzees, to learn about our positive reinforcement training that we do with chimps, learning about enrichment and learning about conservation, because it's really critical that what we do here, we know has an impact on conservation in the wild. And there are fewer habitats, just the bushmeat trade. There are a lot of things that are preventing chimpanzees from thriving in Africa.
What we have is, are chimpanzees part of the wildlife trafficking situation right now too?
No, they're not.
Okay.
It's become illegal to actually import chimps into other countries, however, or in the United States at least. I mean, there is still some trafficking probably in other countries, but it is illegal, and it is a great concern to us. We want to make sure that chimpanzees are protected in the wild.
Okay. Now, I understand it is right now, it's a non-contact facility.
Right.
And you are working with vet schools, so it provides veterinarian experience,
Yes.
me, to students who are, I guess, not only from the Louisiana area, but nationwide to come work with chimpanzees.
Yes.
And with that, I guess I'd like to know is, if somebody wants to get more information on Chimp Haven, what's the website? How do they contact you? What do they do?
All they need to do is write in chimphaven.org, and it will bring them to our website with all of the information they need to know about our Discovery Days as well as our internship programs. We have interns that study behavior and enrichment and husbandry as well as veterinary services.
Okay, and then someone like me, I grew up with Clint Eastwood. I hear the Eastwoods are involved a little bit with you.
Allison Eastwood has been a very strong supporter of Chimp Haven, yes.
All right. Well, Cathy, it's been great having you on Awesome
Thank
Wildlife
you.
Effort, and thank you for making an awesome wildlife effort.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here.
All right. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with our movie for tonight. Subscribe to Awe News. We've interviewed numerous people, artists, legislators, people operating sanctuaries, activists who are working hard to save vanishing species. Get involved.